Welcome to another episode of Spotlight. On today's programme, we've got David Maran from MP Digital, and we're going to be discussing his business and how it's grown fast and the challenges that that's brought him in for terms of not only dealing with the organic growth, but dealing with staff and really looking at how he deals with the pressure that he puts on himself. Literally a bit of an introduction to yourself and your business, just to start with.
Yeah, so I'm David Maran. I run MP Digital. Name came about because it's my surname and my wife's maiden name, so we just merged it together. Needed to think fast.
Yeah.
So,
I want the dictionary.
well, yeah, exactly, yeah. So we specialise in web development, but in the leisure industry. So we look at booking systems and websites within the leisure industry. We've got a little bit of other stuff that we do regarding AdWords and SEO, but our main area is that. And it's come about because it's niche. It's quite niche, but it's actually we've gone into that. So when we first started, it was very, very broad, and we started to find that actually there's a route here, and we followed it, and all our clients came with us, and we developed it in that way, and it's worked quite well. And from first year to now, every year it's progressed in the leisure industry, and it's gone globally. So we've got clients across in Europe, in New Zealand, and Canada as well. So it's progressed that way, and they're all in the leisure. And for a subject for employees and for myself, it's actually quite fun. It's not a boring one, and you can kind of be a bit quirky with it because it's fun. So.
And was it something that you've got experience in? You've got experience in bookings. Is it something that was your background as previous employment?
No. So strangely enough, my background is web development. So 15 years ago, I started web development, worked all the way up, and I went through all the stages of becoming web developer, senior, all the levels all the way up. And I understood code and I could do it, but I never actually went into the leisure area. I worked for one agency in Derby that is leisure associated, but actually it was never my forte or never my thing to really go into it. And it actually was very organic. So that client had a very, very difficult time. They were on the verge of being sued for millions of pounds because of a system that they had in place, because there was issues with it that was serious, internationally serious. So we actually swooped in and tried to help them with it and went, this ain't going to work, you need a new one. And I put together a team. So this was when it was just me. Built it, brought a team in to actually build this solution for them. And from then it's just gone northward, and we brought on new clients off the back of that. We brought on other customers from that. It's all been very, very organic, which is quite nice because it's all word of mouth. So there's a lot of trust in it. And I think personally, I've always had the fear of God of dealing with money. So I've never really wanted to do it, but it's got me past that stage. And actually, it's not too bad. If you do the right steps, have the right people, and follow the processes, it's quite straightforward. But there is always in the back of our head, hold on, we're dealing with a lot of people's data, a lot of people's money. We've just got to be careful with it. But I guess it comes with the territory.
I think that comes with experience as well, doesn't it? I think like paying the salaries as your wage bill gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
My mate said to me the other day, he's like, I don't know how you cope with your overheads. So to be honest with you, I don't think about it anymore.
Yeah.
It's like when I first started, I'd lie in bed at night thinking, you fucking mad bastard. Yeah. Like, you just used to get paid by somebody else before. Now you're like the last in the queue. But I just don't think about it anymore. I think that does come with like,
it does,
practice.
And I've always said to the guys, is like, you guys get paid more than me.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. And we reap the rewards together. And actually, if you guys can come in, bring something into the business, pay your own salary and more, and I'm fine with it. And actually, I'd rather work in a small team than I would in a big corporate company where there's 200 of you, because you're just one fish in a big pond where they're all up there and you don't talk to them. So it's quite nice. But yeah, it's a learning curve when you start your own business. It really is. And I don't think you can be trained or taught it.
Yeah.
You can get that. Oh, you got to understand this. You got to understand that. But actually doing it, you can't get taught it, because it's a completely different mentality, how you think, how you operate, and it's like you says, it's not just you. You've got to start thinking about everybody else, and that's the scary thing. Think about your family, but hold on, you've now got to think about your extended family as a business.
You worked your way through different agencies. Are they different sort of sizes, I'm guessing?
Yeah, just, different sizes in different areas around the country. So when I first started, I worked for a company in Leeds that it was quite large. So it was just experience. You're coming in at the bottom, just do your job and get out,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then the next one was a smaller agency over in Manchester. So I was living over in Leeds at the time, so travelling over, and that was a team of about 14, 15. So that was quite nice because it was at the size where you can get to grips with stuff and you can kind of grow a little bit into it. And that, to be fair, credit to them, they were probably the ones that helped me so much because they gave me the freedom of being able to go and talk to clients, go and do this. And actually, for a developer to be able to talk is pretty unusual.
It is.
So it allowed me to go to clients, take briefs, and go through that way and actually do audits and build it that way. So for that agency, I worked all the way up to head of development through there and managed a small team. And at that point, for me, it was I've hit the limit really. I've got a plan. I want my own place, but I've kind of hit the limit. Where do we go now? And that at that time we was kind of moving because my wife worked down in Nottingham, so I actually looked down in Derby and moved to a Derby agency, and it was a backward step. In all honesty, it was a backward step, but a forward step in experience because it allowed me to get into a different industry and a different sector completely and a different way of how an agency operates. And then from that part, I wasn't there long, and I moved to a solely development agency that was in Nottingham, Derby, just on the edge, and they were a lot larger. And I went in actually right at the top as head of development, so I managed a team of about 14 people. So it was quite nice, and that was an interesting one. That really was because you weren't really developing anymore. You were managing staff, managing processes, and managing clients. But actually, for natural progression, you go through those steps, especially when you start to run a business, you go through those steps. So it was quite nice. And then from that stage, I was there, I can't remember how long, 6-7 months. And at that point, something changed in the industry and something changed in the business. And obviously I was the first in, but obviously probably one of the most expensive because we're at the top. So they let me go first. And I remember on the exit interview, I said to him, "Don't worry, I'll be your competitor." And I think they just kind of giggled between themselves. And I set up my own business, and I didn't go after them, but I knew what I wanted to do in development. And in short, we kind of are a competitor, but not solely, because we obviously started to move towards the leisure industry. And I think if that had not happened, I'd have probably sit in a little comfort zone of, I'll do it at some point. So that kick actually got me off and made me set up the own company.
I think getting sacked quite a few times was one of the catalysts for like setting up my own. Say sack, let go, whatever, same difference. But yeah, like that was definitely for me was one of the catalysts of like setting up my own business. I think it was definitely a childhood dream though for me that I'd always have my own business, and I do, similar to what you've said, I do feel as if I used different types of companies and different types of jobs and opportunities. Not that I wasn't committed to them, but to like gain their experience that I was gonna need before going into my own business, even though I didn't know what it was going to be. But I always had this sort of like thought in my mindset that I would do it before I was 30. That was kind of my game plan. Yeah,
so I always had a 5-year plan, and I was optimistically, when you're younger, you're very optimistic, like 5 years, I'll have my own company. And I think advice-wise, that's something for another time. But I always said I want to do that. So then when I got to a company and I couldn't get past that point, I'm like, well, I can't stay here. And you'd ask the question, like, is there any chance? No. So I always had the plan from quite a young age that I wanted to run my own business, but it's getting to that point on how you do it. If you don't just come out of university, come and set me up my own business, do that. Some people do, and that's brilliant. But a lot of it is the experience, and I don't think I'd be in a position where we are now if I hadn't gone through all those companies, built up the connections and networked with all that. Because the fortunate thing when I set up my own place was I knew a lot of people right away across the country regarding different areas that I need help with or clients. So it was quite easy to get started. And a lot of people look at you going, how you can't just magic money, magic clients up like that. And it actually felt like it did because of the networks, connections I had. And that's probably the biggest benefit I've had, but I've not known I've been doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting, because you can't I suppose it's a different. I suppose it's like a different stage, though, isn't it? Because I think, like, obviously you got like the connections. You got like the connect. You had like a connection base to go to. But very different for me. I had nothing. But what I did have was 10 years, not 10 years, 6 years of industry experience, knowing that what I was doing on a day-to-day basis with my own business inspired me more than working somewhere else. So like, I think that was the one thing I took away from like corporate land was, even though I'm earning a third of the money, this is way more inspiring on a daily, even though I'm my own, on a daily basis, to try to like achieve something for me, than just moving money from one rich person's account to another rich person's account by selling something in between.
Yeah, I think when I got let go, it was, I went for interviews at lots of agencies for quite senior roles, and I got offered them, and I sat there going, do I really want this? Do I really want to go and work for another agency with 200 odd people and just be there? There's nothing else I can do. Yes, I'm managing a team, but I can't get any higher, I can't go any further. It's just going to be the same old. And I remember sitting down with my father-in-law and not knowing, I can't make a decision, I don't know. And I kind of made myself a little bit of a comfort blanket when I did it, because I said to myself, if I can get contract work, what I can run through my own business, then I've got a comfort blanket. If I can get a contract signed for 6, 12 months, whatever, I've got that comfort blanket. And that's what I did. And when I met with them and said, right, this is what I want from that company, contract, 6 months to do this. And they said yes. At that point, I said, right, I'm going with it. I'm set me up in place. I'm going to do it this way. And after I did that, about a month later, I remember 3 or 4 people come up to me and says, you did the right thing. We couldn't tell you to do that because it's your decision, but you did the right thing. And yeah, it's the most amazing thing ever. Just a work-life balance, managing your own time. Okay, you've got to learn a hell of a lot, and you'll be working crazy hours or working through the weekend and stuff like that. And people think, oh, you've run your business, it's happy, you can stop whenever you want. My wife won't tell you
that. No. My first holiday was about 5 years after running the business, where I didn't do any work. So like the others, you can't really classify them as holidays. I went to a wedding. I went to a wedding in the south of France. And our API partner in America did something. I don't know what they did, but the API went down, and I'd literally been in France for about 20 minutes. And I was like, nothing seems to be working. So I sat on this balcony like, what the fuck? Tapping on the computer, like going, what is going on? Like none of our systems are working, and we got this email saying that system's down. I was like, how long's it down for? Like 4 days. Like,
oh God,
that's this holiday done. The only thing I got to do was go to the wedding.
Yeah, and then the rest of it,
I just worked from the back because there was nothing else. It was either that or the business stops.
Well, the first employee I had, that when he came on, I went on honeymoon about 2-3 months after, and I took my laptop and shit hit the fan. So I pulled out my laptop on honeymoon, fixed it, and all the clients come out, what are you doing? You're on honeymoon. I'm like, if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it.
Nobody's going to do it.
So it was interesting, and you've got to sometimes.
Yeah, you do. How do you think, with regards to like thinking about like the last 18 months? We spoke very briefly at the start off camera about the COVID-19. Like, what did you learn through that period about the business that will stay with you, and that's sort of like advice that you would live by, or you'll just continue to have that lesson that carry with you?
It's an interesting one, because COVID initially didn't affect us too much, as we were talking about. So the first lockdown, even the second lockdown, we had a load of work there anyway. It was the third lockdown that actually really hit, because it was a full year. Nobody had done any kind of planning regarding the budgets, what they were going to do next year and how they were going to do it. And obviously our about 80%, 70% of our market was the leisure industry. So it was literally just see you, bye-bye. They're all closed. So it was tough, but I bet everybody says this is not to worry. And I'd probably say the same thing, but the thing with it is, as a business owner, you can sit and look at figures going out, and look at figures coming in, and really pick the small things apart and going, oh, bugger, we're gonna lose this, we're gonna lose that. And actually, when you then spread it over a 3, 4, 5 month period and look at it, it's tiny, it's hardly made any difference. And I think once you get a bad something bad that comes in like COVID, you sit there and looking at worst case scenarios. What about this? What about that? And I know myself, I was up for near enough 2 days solid, just worrying about all the small stuff that could happen, and none of them happened. It just carried on. So I guess it's just living the moment a little bit, but don't look too close to the future. Don't worry about a week. Start worrying about 6 months.
Yeah.
It's a bigger period to look at instead of that. And I think for our progression as a business, that's how I'm going to look at it. Is I'm not going to start worrying about a week or so. Obviously, you've got to as you run a business, but don't worry too much about it, and kind of look at the 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. Where do you want to get to at that point? And if COVID happens in that period, so be it. But your target's at the end of it, not at the beginning of it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Actually, I'd say that's a lesson I learned. I totally agree with that. I think I said to you, like, we lost like 3 months worth of trade, and then still were up. If I'd have known that at the start of the 3 months, I probably would have enjoyed the first 3 months. You know what I mean? I probably would have enjoyed it slightly more and been out running like everybody else, as opposed to like on my Zoom at 4 o'clock drinking wine, thinking what's going on. But yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that getting out the other end of it, and it's just being balanced still, and you're just like, actually not a lot really. Like, some positive things have changed, and obviously there has been negatives, but yeah, generally speaking, I do wish I'd have worried less.
Yeah.
At the first, when I started to worry less, when I switched the news off. But quite religiously, up until March 16th, I started my day with the news.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to the news for 18 months. It was an easy thing to ditch, actually, and actually just gives you things to worry about. Like things that are completely not in your control.
It was a very interesting one, because it's like, so our financial year ended in April, May, and when obviously our busiest period was literally when COVID hit. So that none happened, and that was our lowest turnover ever because of it. But then the turnover the year after that's ended was nearly double and a bit more. So it kind of shows you the bounce back. And that's what I mean about worrying, is like, if I was sat there worrying about shit, actually, if I'd have just chilled and gone for a run, gone for a walk and that lot, it'd have been so much easier.
Yeah, there was actually nothing to worry about.
No, it's your head.
It is your head, yeah. So your business has obviously grown pretty quickly, so 3 years. I think it will be interesting to understand, like, from you, the perspective of what you failed at. Because like, it's really easy to look at a business that's grown, like grows quickly, I'd be like, that's doing really well. But like, underneath the body of it is actually a lot of failures, isn't there?
I think every bloody day or every week I'm failing on something. And I think the biggest, I guess it depends what your class as a failure, and if you can change a failure into a success or something that's actually positive. So one of the areas that probably I've discovered in the past 3 years is doing too much. Now, I'd say yes to everything. And the problem at that point is all you're doing is watering down everything you've got and actually not putting as much focus into it. So then you're stressing, you're running around like a madman, producing all this stuff and then going, actually, it's not the best I could do. And I think it's only probably in the past year or so that I've said, actually, say no to people. What's the worst that's going to happen? And I think it's also the mentality of a business a little bit, as in business, you don't want to say no, because obviously you want the money, you want the business, you want to succeed and you want to progress. But you've also then got to look at it as you can't have your staff running 100% all the time over solid weeks, 7 days a week sometimes. And saying no just gives you that breathing space to be able to do it. And actually what you get from that is probably a lot more than what you would have just from saying yes at that moment in time. And I still do it now, say yes sometimes, but a lot of the time I'm trying to just settle down a little bit. And I wouldn't classify it as a failure, but it kind of is a little bit, because it's something that it's took me 3 years to learn.
You mentioned that in your blog about managing your own expectations and managing the expectations of your team. How have you gone about developing that sort of like it's like what you're saying around like, don't say no to anything. Like if you read, like Richard Branson famously says, like say yes, work out how to do that. As a digital agency, so says, can you do this? Like, Google that. Don't even know what it is. Yeah, we can work out how to do that. Like, what did you do? What have you done? Has it been like conscious thing? Have you gone and read something? Have you gone and what have you done to sort of like ease the sort of like the weight that you pile on yourself? Because that's what you do when you run a business. You just whack it all on your shoulders.
I think the biggest thing is the people you bring on board. Now, if you don't bring on people that you can trust and you can allow to get on with it, all you're doing is absorbing it yourself and just having a person sit there and type something on a keyboard. So actually, one of the biggest things is getting the right people. Everybody says it, but it's the most difficult thing to do. It really is. But in terms of kind of how I got to that stage of saying yes to some things and saying no to others, it all really depends. You've got to look at your goals of what you're trying to achieve for the business, what's your staff want to do, what you want them to do, how you're going to do it, and where you personally want to go. There's a good old saying that when you go for an interview, say yes and learn it after. And there is something to that. And if somebody says, right, I need you to do that, and you're going to help them out of shit to be able to do it, yes, I'll go and learn it. Fine, fantastic. But if you've got that nagging client that just thinks that they could just chuck these random things on you to pick it up and help them out of shit, yes, you can do it sometimes, but doing it all the time, all you're doing is putting strain on everything. So it's really being careful and picking and choosing where you want to progress, where you want to say yes and where you want to say no. In terms of where I've got that from, I don't think it's like you said, you see Richard Branson say yes to everything. I was an idiot. Yeah. You can't say yes to everything. And it's probably just something I've picked up and it's my own personal trait. And I still think I can do more with that because my wife would agree that I'm a madman. I'll just try and do everything. Like, you can't. You've just got to cut back and do a lot less.
One of the things I've had to really, I've struggled with, not so much as struggles maybe the wrong word, but like I'm getting older and I can't work the same as when I was, even like 2 years ago. My eyes don't let me do it for a start off. Like I physically cannot look at the screen. For as long as I used to, like when I first started, I'd wake up on the table downstairs and just be like, what time is it? 5 o'clock, start working. Like, well, how long have I been asleep? Jesus, like. But I physically cannot work like that anymore. And I'm like, as I'm sort of going towards my latter part of my 30s, I've definitely become acutely aware that I physically can't put the hours in. Like, and it's not through the lack of wanting to. I physically can't do it. I physically cannot just whack out 60, 70 hour week like I used to be. And I've had to like is when reading your blog, that's one of what that made me think about, like in my recent sort of like journey of discovery about myself. It's like, stop giving yourself such a fucking hard time all the time. Like sometimes I'll come in a bit later now and I get sick when I arrive, but then I'm thinking to myself like, wow, man, you opened the door for 4 or 5 years on your own at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I had enough early starts to warrant a lie. But it's a bit like, for me, it's been about like just trying to balance my sort of like my energy and where I'm at within like my actual body and how old I am, and understanding I can't just do it. I remember when I first started out, and I was doing 95 a week, no problems, always in the office, 12 hours a day, no problems, work weekends, bring in the money. And I look back on that now and think, I don't know how I did that. No. I don't know how I worked the hours. like I used to like, and go out at night for drinks with staff after work or whatever. You get in like midnight and you're back in the office at 6. You'd be like, I don't know how I did it. Like until midnight, you do 16, 17 hours. I physically don't know how I actually work the hours now. And I think there is an element of, I'm writing a blog for something at the minute about like, I actually don't believe that there's so much shit out there about, work-life balance. Like, if you start a business, there is none. There's not a thing. Like, especially at the start, you have to work out how you're going to put that in. If the business is in a position to be able to get to you to be able to do that, it might be 1 year, it might be 10 years, But yeah, that when I was reading your blog, that it made me think about like just 3 of us had proper exhaustion throughout lockdown. Coming into Christmas, I mean, Jules and I had probably had 3 days off between us. I think I'd had 1-2 days off. We had no time off. Jules had a week off. And we were bollocks. We were knackered. We were like, can't carry on working like this, even though there's nothing else to do.
Yeah, I think it's quite of recent. So COVID, I didn't have any holidays, didn't have anything. And I started probably, when was it? I'd probably say June time. I started to become an angry man. I actually felt it. And it got to the point I've never noticed it before, where everything gets on top of you, and I was just snapping at something. So even my wife was telling me, "Just why are you doing that? Why am I doing that?" And I could sense it myself, and that's when no, I just need to have some time off. I need a week away, and we went away, and I just literally just stared at some sand and some sea and drank alcohol and fruit juice, whatever, for the full week.
Yeah.
And it was nice. And actually, you hear people go on about doing too much. And until you get to that point where you do just break or get near to it, you don't realise, especially when you're young, you think you're invincible. You can do as many hours as you want, and you probably can, but it's not good for you.
Nah.
It's not good at all.
My best mate rang me up actually. It was like end of November, like this, like just a bit later in the year than now. He's like, "We're a bit worried about you." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, your mum says you haven't had a day off all year." I was like, "There's nothing to do, isn't it?" He's like, "Yeah, just do nothing. I just don't do anything." So I went down, he's like, "You're coming to us this weekend." So I drove down to London that weekend. I took the Friday off. And we just sat around and watched football back to back.
Yeah.
I'm just coming back on Tuesday. I mean, I felt, you just feel it's like, wow, rest is important, especially as you get, through your 30s. You just cannot work like you could work as a young, early 20s grad. Just go out, eat, drink, whatever, back to work, repeat.
You don't know how it changes you, though. You don't know doing so much at what point what happens. I didn't know I became an angry man until I actually noticed it myself.
Yeah.
And actually, I've probably got to that point and not doing it. Got to that point at other points in my life, but not noticed. And it was only that point that actually I've gone, what am I doing? I can't be like that. And I think that's probably quite a revelation over COVID, because I've learned something about myself of like at the point I'm getting to and how a trigger. If I start picking up the phone and just shouting down the phone at clients and telling them to bugger off, what I don't do often, then the chances are I need a break. And it's that's probably going to be quite something useful over the next years, because I'm going to start to know, actually, no, I need some time off, just cut it and go, or try and not get to that point. And actually, as a business owner, you don't have any time off, you really don't. But actually, you get to pick and choose when you're working. So if, for instance, you come in early and leave later, fine. Or if you get some work done and go, right, we're going to go out for something to eat, we'll go out for 2.5 hours or something, and then come back and work. It's being smart with your time.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to stop yourself from having those little nice times or being able to do stuff like employees would. You've just got to be smart about it and actually do it at the right times or plan around it. When you're busy, you're busy. When you're not, use it.
In your blog, you talk a lot about customer service.
Yes.
I think this is something our businesses share a real sort of like common ground. I think one of the, I'd be interested to get your take on customer service. One of the things that's been that I can say has been a success for this business and has led to all of these guys' jobs is I moved from using email to WhatsApp really quickly when WhatsApp was first sort of like became mainstream. And the reason for that is we send, most of the people who send it, clients send it, is a picture. Yeah. Can you upload this? Yeah. Well, by the time you've emailed it, and just send them on WhatsApp, I can just put it straight on from my phone. So we swapped to WhatsApp really quickly. And actually, one of the business partners at the time, he left because it was one of his big gripes with the business. But one of the things it created that we didn't realise at the time was that the 2 blue ticks means the client knows that you've got it, and then the responsibility for replying is back on us. So like what I found from the customer service aspect of the business, we were always on the front foot with the customer, because we were either waiting to see they read it or they knew we'd read it and they were waiting for us to reply. So we say, we'll reply and deal with that within a 24-hour period, which I didn't realise was quite drastically different from the other way, like content marketing and marketing agencies do it. You might be waiting a week for your email reply. So that customer service led to really solid referrals to like, these are really quick, really prompt, and probably very different to the sort of customer service that you do. But how important in your growth journey as your customer service has been? It's the biggest.
I still remember when it comes through, it pings on the phone and that. So I've got very good at multitasking. So just answering something, getting through it, or distributing it to the staff. But I always remember that client goes, bloody hell, you've answered that quick. I don't normally get a response like that quick, or I don't normally get this. Oh, you've already done it, fantastic. And I think the customer service is one point of being very proactive with it, but what I found the biggest one is understanding the business. And it sounds so small, like just understand who we are. But a lot of companies just do the work. They don't actually care what the work is or what the work's for. So one of our clients, Clip and Climb, I actually probably know more about the business than a lot of our employees do. And they'll even say that to me, says, you know more than them. And that's helped me because I've always been there questioning stuff. So, I mean, we've got a relationship where I can question stuff like, are you sure that's right? And find it. So an employee comes back and says, oh, we need this doing. I'm like, really? Because what about this, this and this? Oh, I didn't think about that. And it's more like a partnership than it is as a business to business. And that's really helped. The only problem with something like that is investing so much time to get into that position of knowing the business so well. It takes time.
Yeah.
And obviously it takes resources, so it's very, very difficult to do. In terms of kind of communicating and that lot, I think emails are fine, but if I'm going to drop a email saying your retainer's going up, bloody phone them first.
Yeah.
And just picking up the phone and saying, look, I'm going to explain everything in an email, but I just thought I'd let you know this, and this. And the chances are they go, yeah, not a problem. But then when it's come through, they're not phoning you up going, what's this all about? Because you've actually told them. And a lot of people hide behind their emails, and obviously a lot of agencies have been in, just send it. I'll send it at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
They'll see it tomorrow morning. It's like, why?
Yeah, or 5 o'clock Friday.
Yeah, it's like, why? Or you're just delaying the inevitable. Just either pick up the phone and tell them, or send them at a reasonable time. The WhatsApp one's quite interesting. So we use it for staff internally to communicate stuff, because actually everybody's always got their phones. It's just easier. While we've got Slack and everything else like that, it's just far quicker. But in terms of clients, I'm trying to think. We've got one client that we've used it on, but I won't say it's a regular thing that we've done, but I might have to try it.
Yeah, so what we do with ours is we literally, so the onboarding process is, I didn't realise it was quite so different, but our onboarding process is like when we agree a new contract, the first thing we do is have a WhatsApp chat with them.
Oh, okay.
And that is the start of the onboarding process. And what we tend to find is with the customer is you're the only supplier that has a WhatsApp chat with them as a client.
Yeah.
So you're front and centre of their mind. And we have a process whereby when it's a new customer, we'll literally contact them every week. Monday morning, anything you need, getting you used to the process, like, because they're not used to it. And then over the months, they start to go, what, so we could just put stuff in here and you deal with it? Like, yeah, we keep telling you that. And then they kind of get, and then they fit it into that. It doesn't become like email to them, but it's not like every day. They're not like messaging you every day, but they then understand how our business works, and they understand that if they send something in the week that's under 30 minutes in length, we can process it that week, and all they need to do is get it in the WhatsApp queue.
Yeah.
And if it's longer than a 30-minute job, we'll come back to them with the day when it's going to be done. And it just, I don't know, we've found that what we've found with what we've been able to do with that is that Jules and we're actually able to manage all of the client portfolio, and the guys can work on it, and we just then literally send them the work down another WhatsApp channel, and it sort of integrates really well from us as a business, but definitely from a customer servicing perspective, that I know you've seen it and you've replied quickly to say, got that, it's on our radar, or here's the date it'll be done on, or that'll be done by Friday. Makes really nice, it makes a very transactional place to do customer servicing. So what do you, just on the fast growth thing, what would be your piece of advice for anybody managing it?
For managing fast growth?
Yeah, anybody that finds themselves thinking, fuck, this is going fast, like, what would be your advice?
I think you need to focus on your core. You can grow as fast as you want, but if you don't have that core of the heart of the business, so the people, the personalities of the people, and the ethos, like we were talking about earlier, then it's bloody pointless, because all you're going to do is expand the contract again. If you can get the base right and the people right that you can trust and rely on, you can scale infinitely, because you know you've got that structure in place to be able to do it. And I've seen many companies do just grow exponentially grown, and then in 2 years' time they've literally just fallen back on themselves. So if you can't get that core right, then it's bloody pointless altogether. And you say that core a lot of the time as a business owner, organically grown, sometimes it just does go boom. And I think we have to be aware of that. We have to be aware that it could change. It could change tomorrow and it shrink again. It could change. It could get bigger. But you've still got to keep that base of how you work, how you operate, your people you've got, and kind of how you do stuff to be the same and not let that get watered down by more people and more projects that come on board.
Right, last question. So, like literally dubbing it all the way round to the start, really. What's the advice you'd give to your teenage self?
Stop caring. I think right away from the beginning, I've always set a plan of like 5 years I want to do this, 5 years I want to do that. And I've always gone, oh, I want to get to that, I want to get to this, and worried about not getting there. And actually, if you start living there and getting experience, it'll all fall into place. And I see it now with a lot of younger developers and that lot. They all like, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that. It's like, yeah, but that's 15 years away. Just build up the tools you need and start working, and you will get there. And I was one of those people that I walked into a business like, I want to run it. Like on day one, it's like, it doesn't work like that. Let's just get in there and start building up the paint. So it's just kind of take your time and don't try and rush it. And it will fall into place. If you enjoy something so much and you've got the passion for it, it will happen. And that's what I'd probably say to myself.
Interesting. I think mine would be like, enjoy the stages more. Even having a career.
Anyway.
Even having a career.
I enjoyed it all, but I always wanted the next big thing. And it sounds really weird when you say that, but it's like my 5-year plan, I got to like 3 years gone, why am I not running this business?
Because you've got sales experience, haven't you? Is that right? So I think that helps, but doesn't help.
No, it doesn't, because of those targets what you got to hit.
Yeah, but it gives you that focus, like with the sales background, because for me, I did a master's degree and then couldn't get a job doing anything that was in the master's degree, which was digital and new media communication.
Yeah.
I mean, Facebook was 2, 3.
Yeah.
So like getting a job doing that shit was almost impossible. So I ended up naturally going into sales and being competitive from a sporting background. You're like, what? There's targets and shit. And like, you can be the best. Wow. Like, who'd have thought it? The best earns the most, right? Like, at that point in my life, actually quite a toxic situation to put myself in, because somebody that's early 20s wanted to be a professional footballer, then finding themselves earning not footballers' money, but I mean, who'd have thought you could earn that money at 24? Like, you know, you're like, geez, I just earned 10 grand this month. Like, what's this? What do we spend it all? Quite a toxic environment to find yourself. But I think those skills that I've learned selling, coupled with what we were just talking about in terms of like self-startup versus funding. Yeah. So the business I was on about around here, the problem they've got no one can sell. Yeah. I'm like, who's selling? Like, why is somebody not out selling it every day? You're all looking around at each other like the sales going to walk through the door.
I think, so when I did sales, it was a little bit different because I worked as a developer, but also because they knew I could talk as a developer, I could go into businesses and sell it. So it was a little bit, it wasn't a hard sell as such, because I just went in and went, yeah, that's not going to work, that's not going to work, that'll work, but you've got to do this, this and this. And they straight away believed me. It was literally, it was like feeding candy to children. It was like, oh, brilliant, fantastic. But that's because I knew what I was talking about, knew what problems I had, and gave them a solution to it. Whereas the sales that are doing a hard sell, they have no bloody clue what they're walking into the walkthrough with. Oh, you need this, why? And they can't answer it. And that really helped. And that's kind of, that mentality of how I sold then is still how I sell now. Because I'm not just going to sell them a load of random crap, because it makes no sense. All it's going to do is come in and go back out again. Yeah. So it helped that way. So if you look at the steps I've gone through in my career, I've kind of ran businesses from not running a business, if that makes sense. I've done all the steps. Yeah. So then when it came to actually running it, it was just gluing it all together. Yeah.
I think one of the things I'd say to our teenage self is like, the sales jobs that you hate, you're going to hate, will be the making of you at the end. It's like I was selling gas and electricity. I was like, well, I'm selling gas and electricity. What am I doing?
You'd be in it for now if you were doing it.
Yeah. But like when I was selling gas and electricity at PowerGen, I was like, what am I doing this for? Yeah. I think one of the key components to success, from what you're saying, it's if you can sell, or you understand that selling is a skill, it's not a gift of the gab, that you're on a good footing to start a business. Because without sales, especially I spend so much, not wasted time, but talking to people on Zoom, and they're like trying to analyse why the marketing plan's not working, or trying to do this, and you're just not selling. Selling's like, do you want to buy this? 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 Like, that is how you get it going. And like you said with your contacts on LinkedIn, about the first thing you did was like, who needs this?
Yeah, one of our main clients, the salesperson he's been promoted, so he's further up the chain now. He loves the product so much that he could just walk in and enthusiastically sell it, and they'll all buy it because he loves it. He lives and breathes. If you were to take somebody that would resemble the business, it would be him. And the Europeans hate it, but in the UK, if you go in and they love it, it's this, it can do this, it can do that, they believe him. And actually, why would somebody be so that enthusiastic about it if it wasn't good? That straight away is, and you have a lot of the European sales that look at him and go, how are you doing it? And he just loves it. And that's why they like it. And he can walk into some of the bigger companies like your Namco's and things like that and just sell it like that, done, yeah, let's buy it. And there's so much about that, about knowing your product, enjoying your product, believing in your product that sells it. A salesperson you bring in for 20 grand that's just sitting on the phone selling it don't want to be there.
Yeah.
So it's not going to sell it, is it?
No, it's agreed. It's agreed. I think that is really important to people that I would say that a lot of people that I've spoken to in the last 3-4 years that are struggling with their business, like, they just don't sell it. Go and do a year of selling something, even at like going and standing. I've sold all sorts of stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, from standing on event stands, selling stuff, like trying to get people over exhibitions. Attracting people to buy from you is, in that early phase of your business, is key. And like in your blog, you say about building your network and having that, but you still got to go and approach it.
I think growth as well. I think people don't understand that as well. It's all right doing the sales, but then growing those clients. So the biggest fear I have, and I still have it now, is phoning up that client to say your retainer's got to go up. I sit there for about 4 hours going, do I really have to do it? Everybody's happy, please. But you've got to do it. And actually, I've always prepared myself for the argument of, but why? And it's never happened.
Yeah.
And it's both sides of it. You've got to be able to sell it, but also then look at still growing it. You can't just get somebody on and keep them on for the next 20 years and nothing happens.
Yeah, nothing changes. Yeah, it's pointless. Thank you to David Maran from MP Digital for coming on the programme. Really interesting to get his insights into a self-funded business, how that's grown fast, and really how he's had to learn on the job to essentially not micromanage the pressure that he puts on himself.